All right, welcome everybody to the podcast. This is the Business Growth Factor, where we are having conversations about building better businesses. My name is Josh Leyenhorst, and I'm here with Lyndon Smith. And today we're going to be talking about something that gets me a little bit excited because it's a formula. And being an accountant, I like formulas and numbers. And we'll dive into this. The formula itself is D times V times F is greater than R. So what does that mean? Well, we're going to hop into that a little bit here with Lyndon. So yeah, Lyndon, why don't we just dive into it and maybe define what that's all about and what it means?
Yeah, Josh, thanks so much, and hello everyone. So the formula that Josh just mentioned there is the formula for change, and I just want to get a couple of notes here in front of me. I haven't got this one 100% figured out. So the formula is typically used in operational change management models and is popularized by David Gletcher and Richard Beckard. The first time I heard of the formula is when I worked for a company called Action Coach. They got a bit of a variation on it. So full disclaimer, it's we didn't come up with this. It's just it's a pretty common formula that's out there. And what it really is again a formula for change. So the D in that formula means it stands for dissatisfaction. So think about the dissatisfaction of your current state. The V is the vision for what's possible. F is the first steps or concrete actions towards making that change. And then the R is the resistance to change. So your D multiplied by V multiplied by F needs to be greater than the resistance. So dissatisfaction, vision, and first steps needs to be greater than the resistance at the end of the day. So yeah, I think maybe just to give you some context, Josh, and you can kind of just weigh in here as we're going along.
Sure, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Before you dive into context, like as you explained that, it almost makes it sound like it's a bit of a formula for procrastination or for combating procrastination, right? Like the movement to make some kind of change. There's usually some kind of barrier in the way. Sometimes we feel like procrastination, but it seems like what we're doing here with this formula that we're talking through today is looking at the specific drivers that actually impact that and what you can do to sort of address that specifically.
Yeah, there's always going to be something getting in the way, and that's your resistance. So that could be that procrastination that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So what is preventing me from making a decision? Maybe the dissatisfaction that I have is not great enough. The resistance is there, but the dissatisfaction is not great enough. The vision is not strong enough, or I simply don't know what first steps to take to proceed and actually make this change happen. I'm gonna share a couple of different contexts with you on this episode today. The first context is going to be more of like a personal context and not necessarily business related, and it's really just so that you can understand how the formula applies in life. And you can use this with family, friends. You can use this in your business. You can use this with prospects. Fundamentally, the formula is being designed around organization change management and how you can effect change within the organization with your team. And I'll give you some context around an example for that as well. So the first example I'm going to give is think about you've got this 20-year-old vehicle that is unreliable, heavy on gas. It probably doesn't make you feel good when you rock up there with this old beater that's noisy, doesn't look good. It hasn't aged really well, and there's a whole lot of dissatisfaction there, right? The vision could be that you want to be in a brand new truck or in a newer truck. I'm going to use a truck because we're here in Canada, but if you're in South Africa or other parts of the world, it could be like a brand new BMW or a better family vehicle. I'm just going to stick with the truck example for the purposes of this conversation. So it could be, a vision could be you want to be in a brand new truck, more powerful, more economical, lower maintenance costs, and it just feels good because you're in this newer brand, like a newer vehicle. The first steps could be, well, let me go and check my bank account. Let's see what that looks like. Maybe I don't have enough money to pay for it cash. I got to either lease or finance or find some other alternatives to get into that vehicle. Find out what, the vehicle that I've got now, what's the value of that, and can I get some, can I trade that in, or does it make sense financially to proceed with this? So that could be like part of your first steps. Another part of the first steps could be taking another vehicle for a test drive and actually comparing, is it worth it? Does it make sense to move into another vehicle, or is this still sufficiently adequate for what we need for whatever purposes that you're using the vehicle for? It could be a work vehicle, could be a family vehicle. You just take a look at all of those details and make that decision there. The resistance could be along the lines of, it's super expensive for a new vehicle. I don't want to commit to that. I don't want to finance another vehicle and pay all the interest on that. I don't know, what other resistance factors could there be on an example like this, Josh?
Oh man, analysis paralysis, I suppose, is one of them too, right? I mean, when you're thinking of a different vehicle, you're like, well, which one do I get? And there's all these different options
to choose from. Yeah. And do I go with an SUV or a truck, or do we just need a sedan? Like what's a good fit? So you got to go through that, like you say, analysis paralysis, and you gotta set like the benchmark and say, like, this is what we need for a replacement, and this is what our budget is, and set all of that. And then there are more resistance factors that creep in over there. Anything else? Or I mean, for the purposes of this example, it works.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary so far, as far as this example goes, for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, as long as the resistance essentially is higher than the dissatisfaction, the vision, and the first steps, you're never going to make that change. But it might be on the cards, but you don't make the change for 6 months, a year. Maybe you just keep on, going on. And then, it comes along, you got to replace the tires on the vehicle, and it's super expensive for a new set of tires for a truck. And you're like, oh my gosh, like I just spend another $1,500 on tires, or whatever that looks like. And it could be like, maybe it's just time to make that decision, or maybe something fails on the truck, and then that dissatisfaction starts increasing. That vision, of course, is there, and you're like, maybe there's a promotion on a new truck where they're giving you a massive discount, or they got a clearance sale or something. So now the vision is increasing. Well, we can get into something a whole lot nicer for cheaper. They're getting really good deals out there, and that's the strategies that these dealerships play on. I'd imagine.
And I guess also by like those deals, that's also going to bring down the resistance level too, right? Because you talk about like, the financing, I don't feel like dropping this kind of money on it right now. It's like, now the resistance just came down because there's some kind of deal on it. And so that changes the equation as well, right?
And then the first steps is, maybe you weren't happy with the premiums that you'd have to pay on a new vehicle. You didn't want to pay as much, if you're purchasing the vehicle cash, or it just didn't make sense financially. The first steps that they create for you when you're going to those dealerships is they're giving you a whole lot of different options to consider. So they're making it easier for you to make that decision. So they're increasing, like the dissatisfaction, vision, and first steps, and they want to get that just enough. Sorry, I don't know if you can see my hand on this side of the screen here, but just enough that you're tipping over, and that's higher than the resistance that you're experiencing. So that's a very basic rudimentary kind of example that I guess anybody could understand, and that context could apply in their lives. Any thoughts or considerations around that?
I think that's a really helpful example. And just as I'm thinking through the formula and as you're explaining it, just the importance of being able to lay out next steps is pretty critical. I mean, the dissatisfaction is going to happen, right? That's inevitable. Helping people maybe paint the picture of the vision that they want to achieve is important, yes. But a lot of times, like, first steps are often overlooked. Like, people don't think about the first steps that they have to do in order to, move the needle on that, right? And so, understanding those next steps is pretty important. I think that was very helpful in summarizing.
Absolutely. I mean, if you take a mathematical approach to this, if there's 0 first steps, there's not going to be any change, right?
Yeah.
So there needs to be value behind like that dissatisfaction and the vision and the first steps, so that you can effect that change, you can make it happen. But if you're not taking any first steps, guess what? There ain't going to be any change that's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Mathematically, it's not going to work, and realistically, in reality, it's also not going to work, right? So I'm going to use another personal example. There's someone in my life that smokes a lot. So what I do there is I create more dissatisfaction. And if there's anybody on the call that smokes, that's entirely up to you. Uh, but I create that dissatisfaction around, that person's not allowed to smoke around me or my family, or so we create more dissatisfaction with the intention that, like that resistance that's there. Maybe the dissatisfaction is high enough for that person to make the change at some point. And it's a really awful example, actually. I'm going to move this to more of a business context type example.
Sure.
So I'm going to look at it from an operationals context, share an example there, and then we'll look at something that's more of a client acquisition or selling marketing type context, so that you've got an idea of what that could look like there. So from an operations context, the formula for change could be, we're introducing some new software or technologies, or we might be restructuring processes in the company. Dissatisfaction, what that could look like is, and this is something that you want to kind of amplify with your team, because people don't like change, right? Inherently, people, they want to come to work, they follow a procedure, they're done, they go home. As soon as you start introducing change, it starts creating like this unsettling feeling, and a lot of people just simply don't like that. So when you're going through that change management process, what you really want to do is highlight the dissatisfaction of the current state. So you guys are feeling frustrated with the inefficient workflows, outdated systems that we have, or the frequent errors that we're experiencing. So you, as a leader in your company, we want to highlight or amplify that dissatisfaction that exists there. The vision that you're creating with them is you want to create you want to paint this clear picture and really like a compelling argument around what the improved operations could look like. So we're looking at implementing a new system. Maybe it's a new CRM, maybe it's a new operations software, and you're going to share with them that, like, this is the vision of how this is going to impact their job and their workflow, and really the value that it creates for them. It frees them up that where they don't get all these inconsistencies and like all this administrative stuff that they got to do in their jobs. So you got to paint the picture and really amplify the value that it's creating, not only for the business, because it's not about the business at this point, it's about the change and making sure that people are able to adopt, buy in, right? So it's just creating a compelling vision around that. The first steps would be sharing like what the tangible steps are in achieving the transformation. So going through and what the implementation is going to look like. What that roadmap looks like to implement the new software, and training and getting everybody up to speed and making sure that everybody's on board, and really just getting people to be part of that and owning part of that as well. So getting them involved in in the whole process of implementing, right? So that first steps, and then the resistance that they could have is like, how is this going to impact my job, right? How is it is it going to make my work redundant? And then your job as a leader then is to make sure that you've got a good enough conversation around, well, it's not going to make your job redundant. It's going to eliminate all the repetitive administrative functions that you are currently responsible for, and it's going to empower you to be more successful and focus on more valuable tasks within our business, so that they can see that there's like a roadmap and a bigger picture that you're creating for your entire organization and team. Because when you're in growth mode in a company, your goal is not to eliminate resources out of your business. Your goal is to grow your company and improve your systems. So by improving your systems, you might not need to bring on as many resources, but you want to be able to leverage the value of the resources that you've got in your business.
Exactly. Yeah, you're maximizing the use of it, right? You're not necessarily looking to
Yeah,
eliminate it, just maximize the use of it. I was just thinking as you were
absolutely.
talking there, Lyndon, that I think another one of those resistance areas that you may see in a workplace with employees in implementing some kind of large change is just the amount of time that it might take to learn when you're still having to do all of your other work, right? A common question you'll bump into in these situations is like, well, when are we going to have the time to actually do that, right? Because I still have
Yep.
this, and have this, and have this, and have this, right? So that's one of those resistance items that's pretty common with
Yeah.
change management for sure.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think it's really about creating a like a roadmap to really communicate. This is we anticipate that there's going to be a slowdown in production or productivity as we're adopting the technology, and so like that hockey stick curve. We're going to our productivity is going to dip, and then we're going to get to a point where you guys are familiar with the new system or the new technology, and things start increasing. And maybe it's going to take like 3 or 6 months for everybody to get up to speed. But once we're past that like sort of productivity level that we were at before, the way that amplifies is substantial, and the way that we
Right.
bring new resources into the company is super effective, right?
Sometimes you
It's
need to crouch before you jump, right?
Yeah, that's it,
Yeah,
100%. You got to go down a little bit before you can go back up again.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I love that analogy. You got to crouch before you can jump. Yeah. All right, so that's looking at it from an operational context, and I don't know if I did a great job at explaining there, but it's really, again, you wanna be looking at highlighting the dissatisfaction, so the pain that your team are currently experiencing, right? You want to
Hmm.
look at the vision that you're creating for them. So by implementing this new solution, technology, product, or whatever it is in our company, in our team, this is what it's going to look like. This is the problems it's going to solve for us. These pains, it's going to address these pains. The first steps is just creating that clear pathway. Like, hey guys, you got to understand, we're gonna have a little bit of a dip in productivity. We're gonna have to go through a bit of a learning curve here before things get better. But this is what it looks like, and this is what we're creating together as a team,
Hmm.
and getting everybody on board there. So just having a clear pathway on how to achieve that, and then any resistance that exists there, just working through them, like just through conversations, or taking them and saying, all right, we've got that. Like let us take a look at how we can how we can work through that together, because we're like, again, I mean, the goal, if you're growing your business, is not to eliminate your resources. It's to make your resources, utilize your resources more effectively. So
Yeah.
that's really what your goal would be.
I wonder if Lyndon, like, even using an example like in your space too, right? Like having companies implement like developing their playbook or implementing standard operating procedures or SOPs to use
Hmm.
the acronym, right? So a lot of businesses just don't have the time to do that. That's going to be the resistance, right? Like everybody wants to have a nice playbook, but they just don't. In their mind, they're like, I don't have the time to do this. But the
Hmm.
dissatisfaction is nobody's doing things consistently around here, and it seems like things are kind of going off the rails. And then it's like, okay, well, let's paint a vision of like, hey, you can have very consistent workflows that you can actually measure how fast they're going, what the specific handoff points are, right? You can
Hmm.
start to optimize it and really enhance your efficiency. What are the next steps, right? Chat with Lyndon, work through your playbook, right? So if it becomes clear that like, oh yeah, actually that's really, really good, then that whole resistance side of we don't have time to do this becomes less important, because now you boosted up the other side of the equation. Sorry, I just hit my mic. Boosted up the other side of the equation, and really helping them understand their dissatisfaction around that. And maybe, some business owners don't even necessarily understand their dissatisfaction around something. Like they know something's maybe not right in their business. Like things aren't moving as smoothly as they could be, but they need to actually be able to define what that dissatisfaction is
Yeah.
in order to kind of fit within, I suppose, that formula to make it work ideally there.
No, absolutely. Yeah, 100% agree there. And I think the next example will speak more around that. So, we're the next example, as I mentioned, we're going to look at something that's more in a sales or client acquisition context. And when I'm going straight into it here. So, like your dissatisfaction in that respect would be, highlighting that pain point. How are you doing that with your marketing or sales initiatives? You want to be subtle, but you also you want to be direct about it. So if you're offering fractional CFO services, Josh, in your example, or your business rather, what pains would your clients be experiencing?
Mm-hmm.
Have you got a couple examples around that? So
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't sure if that was like rhetorical or not, but yeah, you have a lot of business owners who, they just don't have the cash flow that they need for their business growth, right? They
yeah,
don't necessarily have a pulse on how their business is doing. So when opportunities pop up, they don't know if they have the agility to jump on those opportunities or not, if they have the cash available for it. Just
yeah,
not understanding how to make good business decisions based on their financials. It's a
yeah,
super common pain point, and a lot of business owners don't even necessarily know that they don't know how to define that that's an issue. And so that's actually something we bump into when we have conversations with potential clients in our virtual CFO services. Is they don't necessarily know that that's a problem until you start to talk about it, and they're like, "That's right, I am bumping into this. Like that's exactly what my issue is. I just didn't know that that's how I define that, right?" And sometimes you have to be able to define the dissatisfaction before you can really help somebody with it.
yeah. So, I mean, a good marketing is all about hammering on those pain points. It's that dissatisfaction that they're experiencing in their business, and really the next part of it is creating that vision. So educating them on what your product, service, or solution is about. And in your business, it would be educating them on the vision of what would that look like.
Yeah, so just kind of the whole peace of mind every single month, knowing where things are at and knowing specifically what to focus on to keep moving the needle towards, improved cash flow and increased business value. And so it's that knowledge each month, knowing specifically what you need to be doing. And that's definitely the vision, because again, a lot of people don't necessarily know that they lack that vision, but when they start to see that that can be a vision that they can
Yeah,
have for their business, they're like, that's awesome. I want
yeah.
that.
Yeah, so I mean, just taking one step back here, your dissatisfaction in your marketing is all about touching on those pain points that your prospect or your targets might be experiencing. Your
Right.
vision when you're marketing is all around educating them on how your product, service, or solution could address or resolve that problem that they're experiencing, and yeah, the next part is like the first steps, right? So creating that clear, actionable roadmap, or those that process for them to follow, so that they clearly understand we're going to start here. This is what is required from me, maybe in terms of time commitment, in terms of financial commitment, commitment of resources. That could be your employees and your team. How much time do they require to bring this online, or to make this change happen? Just being clear on like what those first steps look like, and having a clear roadmap for your client, or your prospect, or target rather, and again, bringing it back into customer acquisition or sales or marketing. When you're going through these steps here, it's really valuable for you to have all of this outlined here, so that it's you're elevating this above the resistance, so that formula starts working, right?
I guess for anyone listening who might be familiar with Donald Miller with the whole story brand framework,
Yeah.
I mean that's a pretty key part of it, right? Is like the next three things, right? Here are the three steps that you need to take in order to get from here to here, and having those next steps, because without them, people know, okay, I am dissatisfied. Like there's something that's not right here. I need it to be fixed. This looks really good. I want that to happen. But if you don't have the next steps, you're just going to be dissatisfied and wanting something better that you know is better. But
Yeah.
it's those next steps, and I think for anyone again listening who's familiar with the whole story brand framework, that it's a really important thing to emphasize. Like these are the next three things to do, to kind of move you along that journey.
Yeah. Excellent. And then the last part of it is obviously the resistance again. So in your marketing or like your sales initiatives that you have, you want to understand what resistance your prospects or targets, what they have to proceed or to take those next steps would be, right? So it could be, I don't know this company, or I don't know that I have this problem, or it could be that I don't trust these people, or I just don't have the time to commit to making this change in my business, or any of the, like it could be anything, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
more you have those conversations with your targets and prospects, those are objections that are going to come in your direction. You want to make sure that you're documenting those objections, and you're changing your dialogue or conversation to address that. So if it's I don't have enough time, for example, introducing SOPs and creating a business playbook, I don't have the time for that. Like we're firefighting, we're totally focused on the operations and delivering everything in our business. Or the reason you're doing that is because what's that good old saying? There's never time to do it right, but there's always time to fix it. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
There's never time to plan adequately, but there's always time to figure it out, like on the fly, and then that ends up taking a lot more time, and it's a mind shift of who you're being in your business, and what you're committing your time to. So instead of just addressing everything that's urgent and important, allocating like 20% of your time, or even as little as 5 or 10% of your week, to developing procedures, so that you start creating that consistency with your team, that you have that knowledge and information available for your team. So now you start buying back your time because you have a consistent standard or a standard in place, and you can share that standard with your team. So instead of investing 30 hours 7 times, now you're just in sorry, not 30 hours, 30 minutes 7 times. Now you're just doing it once, or maybe like double that, to create the procedure, the standard, and you can
Right.
just share that consistently. So you do the work once, and you get the value from that forever, right?
Yeah, for sure. I heard it said if you have to do something more than once, then create a system for it, right? Create a
You can
process.
document it. Yeah. Yeah. Document repeatable processes. Full stop.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, so I hope that was a good enough explanation around, just a nice personal example with a car. We've
Sure.
got an operational example where you're looking at change management internally within your business, and then you've got like a customer acquisition example there, where we're looking at change. How do you affect that change, or how do you empower your targets or prospects to make that change? And it could even be with existing clients, right? Maybe
Right.
you've been working with them for a whole long time, and now it's like we want to shift them into something bigger, better,
Hmm.
more powerful. Um, how do we make that change? How do we get them from here to there? And you just take a look at this formula, and it's like the dissatisfaction and the vision needs to be plus multiplied by your first steps. So create that roadmap for them, and then
Hmm.
understand what resistance factors are in place and how you can start overcoming that resistance factors. So you want to lower the resistance, and you want to increase and amplify, and create that increase and amplify the dissatisfaction, the vision, and the first steps. Make that super clear, and then that's when you start reaching that tipping point.
I
Um,
suppose like a good strategy with the whole resistance side of it, like from a sales and marketing strategy, is or perspective rather, is the email drip campaign sort of approach, right? Where if you're
Yep.
like, okay, so here we have a prospect and we have the ability to communicate with them. These are like the five key areas of resistance that we typically encounter,
Mm-hmm.
when working with a potential client. So you can start to proactively send communication out, say by email,
Yep.
or whether it's like your social media marketing or whatever it might be, to just get people familiar with like how to basically communicate, how to navigate those resistance items, right? So if thinking it might take too much time might be one of the objections, right?
Yep.
Just making it clear. Here's how we can actually expedite the process, right, or make it take less time. If a concern is around price, it's like, oh, okay, well, actually, we have a few options. There's sort of like a ladder of options, so you're not just coming in at a high price point. You can
Yep.
actually come in here and still be well served in your business. And so, if you can address those different areas of concern of a potential client, you're kind of reducing that resistance side of it. And then if you can do a good job of really helping identify the dissatisfaction and helping paint that picture and have clear next steps on the roadmap, you've already proactively brought down that resistance level, and that can be a good. I guess what I'm doing is I'm trying to take like some of the sales and marketing strategies that are out there and tie it into this formula of how it can be used
Yep.
strategically there, and that might be a good way to draw down the resistance side.
Well, the best way to do it is, just grab a pen and paper and then write the formula at the top, split it up into columns, and then under each column, so for dissatisfaction, like what dissatisfaction do our clients normally experience? And write down as many points as what you can there. What is the vision? What vision are we creating for them through the product, service, or solution that we're offering them? And write that all down there. Pop, 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 pop. And then first steps. So what are the first steps? Make sure it's super clear, and you've got a bit of like a roadmap rather, for them to take those first steps. It could be, have that discovery call. It could be, we've got to do a demo. We've got to. It all depends on your business, right? But what are those first steps? And then what are the resistance factors that we consider here? So, and that could
I
be
like that, yeah.
that could be through ongoing conversations. Like so, we've gone through this entire exercise with you. You seem keen. You seem interested. Like what's holding you back? And you get those you get that feedback from them.
Right.
Or maybe they decide, like you once you've gotten a no from them, understand like. Why did you get that no? Like, what is preventing them from making that decision? Document that, and then that's where you can start working on maybe a bit of marketing, maybe a dialing in your sales process, so that it's more effective. Maybe you're bringing some of that stuff up earlier on, so that the resistance is being eliminated earlier on in the conversations. So it all depends on your business, what you're doing, what you're selling, what you're out there to to enroll people in. At the end of the day, and yeah,
I like that,
it's just
Lyndon. I like how it's like you can take a framework and, yeah, like a good takeaway, put it in columns, like put it on a piece of paper, put a
yeah.
column for each of these variables, and actually lay out specific details, because it'll probably really help anyone who does that refine their messaging,
Yeah.
refine their value proposition, right? Help understand how to best communicate with potential clients, how they can serve them best, and even
Hmm.
maybe help refine how to filter out who might not be a good
Oh
prospective
yeah.
client.
Yeah, you don't want to bring on awful clients.
Yes.
Yeah, they're just going to consume your time. Yeah, so what do you think like top takeaways for today are, Josh?
Yeah, I think it was that. Like, just in going through this, I mean, I think the importance of the first steps, not to de-emphasize the other variables, of course, because they're all equally weighted in the formula, but the importance of the next steps, making sure that that is available, because typically in our field with accounting and finance and virtual CFO services, like typically you will have people who feel dissatisfied in some way. You got to help them define that,
Hmm.
help them kind of paint the picture. But it's the next steps that really help people. Like, oh, okay, this is the next thing I do. This is the next thing I do. Make sure they're reasonable next steps that aren't like massive barriers. Um,
Yep.
and that but then I think also like taking the formula. I like this idea that you just mentioned. Putting it in the columns and itemizing specific details under each of those headers, under each of the variables, I think that'll be a very valuable exercise. I'm gonna make sure I do that this week.
Yeah.
How about
Yeah.
yourself?
And just a comment on the first step side of things. If you have zero under the first steps, your change is not going to happen. So just a
Right,
reminder that each section there, you need to have like it they work together to make the change to happen, right?
right,
And your goal in your business is to make those first steps as easy as possible. You want to eliminate the barriers for them to have any doubt or anything like that. You want to make those first steps to engage or sign on with your business or purchase your product. You want to make that super easy. So
right.
for them to engage and take those first steps must be exceptionally easy.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, takeaways from my side, or maybe what I'd like to leave everyone with is, this formula for change. It's not just business context or business related. You can look at this in your life. Maybe there's a change that you need to make. Maybe you want to exercise more, and there's like some resistance factors. It's super comfortable
right,
sitting on the couch and slamming a beer or a chocolate or something like that, and watching television after a long day's work. But there's like the dissatisfaction, vision, first steps. Like you can start applying that formula and understanding how you can make that change happen. Or really, you can apply it in your personal life. You can apply it in your business. Internally in your business, from an operational context, in a sales context, you can understand like the psychology of your clients, or your prospects rather, and you can start designing your marketing and your initiatives around that psychology, which is really, really cool. Once you start digging into that, it's like, wow, like I never thought of these things.
right.
Um,
If I can
yeah,
just jump in there, Lyndon,
yeah,
in using the exercising example, because I think this is a classic one that everybody can kind of wrap their brains around. That resistance level, even, when we started a pretty regimented fitness routine, like on this end, like for myself in particular, one of my resistance things was like I need to reduce resistance as much as I can, because
yeah,
it's like everyone's challenge. So even like as much as like putting my exercise clothes on the floor by my bed, so when I get out of bed, it's like there they are. I'm not like thinking, oh, I have
you're
to go to my
stepping straight
dresser,
into
I
your
have to go
shoes.
find them, right? Like it's all there. And then
Yeah,
also, finding somebody that you can do it with, and so then that's like another person who can. There's accountability there. It further
yeah,
brings down the resistance because they're going to be pulling you a little bit more. It's
yeah.
not just you with the friction. So, good example on the fitness front there for sure.
That's awesome. I think we can wrap it up here, Josh.
Yeah,
Yeah, I hope I trust there's some value that people can take from this conversation today, and you can, like I say, apply it in both your business, in a business context, internally and externally, and in your personal lives as well.
excellent. Well, thanks for the conversation, Lyndon, and yeah, thanks for everybody who is listening. And our contact information will be in the description in the podcast here. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Thanks,
All right,
Josh.
thanks,
Thanks,
man.
everyone.